What's the date, dude? What's the date? What date is it? Magi, Apprentice, vlog, human date, August 19th, 2011. Okay, I just got off of work, and this is my after work look. But it wasn't too bad because I only had one house, although that one house was 4 hours. So, yeah. And it's Friday! Yay! It's Friday. Anyway, for those who would like to know, I call myself a Magi Apprentice because those are the magicians of the Bible, the oldest book that is known to man, which is why I give it credence, not because of the whole faith thing that everybody else puts into it. Although there are some really lovely words in the book and there are some valuable lessons in the book, my interpretation is a little different. The Bible talks about Magi's, but doesn't necessarily have a how-to for dummies chapter. But we are all told that that is how we should be, and a lot of people don't like to consider this, but in essence their lovely spoken Jesus was a Magi. If you could perform what he could perform, granted, via faith in himself, faith in his knowledge, faith in his wisdom, if you believed strong enough, then you could accomplish said tasks. Like, floating on water, walking on water, if you want to call it that instead of floating, multiplying bread and water and all of that. Yeah, but we'll get into that part later. For now, as my introductory vlog, let's just start off with something that sounds completely unrelated. That's the best way to start anything, is to always start from what the fuck? Because if you don't have the questions, you will never have the solutions. And if you don't have the solutions, well, then I guess you weren't looking. And if you're not looking, that's cool, man. My ma is a devout Christian, and she does not need to nor wants to hear what I have to say. And that's a beautiful thing, because unlike other Christians I have met throughout my day, my ma not only talks the talk, she walks the walk. So that can be hard to do when you're a human. Anyway, so we're going to start with this totally unrelated story to help bring things into focus in a different manner. Gotta love it. Why don't we pretend like it's 1979 and I didn't know ya? That's right, I didn't. Haha. Okay, so let's start with the story Medusa. 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 Okay, as far as we can figure out, you have to look back at the history and see what's out there. There are two prevailing Medusa stories out there. One, she was born that way and there was nothing she could do about it. She was just ugly from the beginning. But it's the second prevailing story of Medusa that I'm going to talk about, okay? She wasn't born that way, she became that way. Okay? Okay. So, Medusa. Medusa? At first she was a lovely, lovely maiden. All the men desired her, but yet she was a virgin goddess of Athena. Hopefully I'm correct on that. Sometimes I have to look at the piece of paper because my memory isn't what it used to be, okay? Okay. Damn. Anyway, So she was a virgin goddess, or not goddess, she was a virgin, oh, what the fuck do you call them? Because my memory isn't what it used to be, okay? Okay. Follower, priestess. Priestess, okay? She was a virgin priestess to the goddess Athena, okay? And all the men desired her because she was ravishingly beautiful. Beautiful, I say. So anyway, she was a virgin. She had never had it happen before. The god Poseidon decided to come along, and he thought she was beautiful too, and decided he wanted to make her his own, as gods did back in the day, you know, Greek times, those times that we're familiar with, but yet in a vague manner or a vague sense. So Poseidon decided to come along and take advantage of the young Medusa, the young virgin, and he decided to pop her cherry. When he did so, as was written, mistakenly, in my view, but as was written by a man's hands and a man's point of view, that the goddess that she was a priestess of, she went to her goddess Athena, because she was mortally petrified by this whole thing. It totally upset her. As was written by a man's perspective, because that is the writing figures of the time. Okay, we're talking basically, what, around 800 BC? Maybe? More like 300 BC. So, as was written, the goddess Athena got very mad at her because she violated her temple, because that's where Poseidon decided to take advantage of this young, lovely maiden who had never been touched before. Anyway, it's from that point that Athena was so mad at the goddess, or excuse me, at the priestess Medusa, for having violated her temple, that she was to be turned into this horrid creature, and if any man were to gaze upon her, they would be turned to stone, and her snake hair, and blah 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 da 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 yada yada yada. Again, a male's point of view was written in the story. Alright. So you can take it like it was just a story, like it's all make-believe, it's all pretend. And that is a valid point. It could all be totally fantasy. Especially back in the thoughts of the gods and all of that, to them it was very, very real. They believed in gods, they believed in Zeus, they believed in all of that, okay? So you have to understand, or at least mold your thinking into the possibility that a story on a human level very similar to that could happen. Let's say that this did happen. This human priestess vowed celibacy to her goddess Athena, okay? Then she was raped in the temple that she so honored with her life on a daily basis by another god. If that story were to be true, and although the outcome is the same, it's the interpretation of how the transition became reality for her in this mythical world. That has me stepping back and going, okay, so let's take it from a different angle. So the beautiful Medusa cries to her goddess in her agony over having just been raped. That's the stickler. That's the changing point. To me, a man's point of view, well, let's put it this way. Most men's point of view will never no matter how educated they are, internally they will never understand what happens when a woman is raped. Granted, there are some men out there who have been raped, so I will never understand the full capacity of what happens to a man when he gets raped, although the situations will be closer than a person who had never been raped before can actually honestly begin to understand the concept of what occurs mentally to a human woman when they're raped. Especially a virgin priestess in the temple of all places. That would be like a nun in the church, okay? When you look at it from that perspective, that's how it was. For a nun in the church to be raped by, let's say, a cardinal or the Pope. Ooh, damn, did I say that? Back in those days, that would be the conception of what's going on. But the twist that they put on it is that the goddess Athena gets mad at Medusa. She gets mad at Medusa for being victimized within her temple. Because it's just accepted that gods can do whoever they want, whenever they want. That's like, Monty Python. It's good to be the king. I just don't see that as being a plausibility, except when it comes from a man's written hand. So, if you take the story Medusa, which again, back in those days, everybody thought it was real, okay? If you take the story and you put a little twist on it, maybe even some bearing aids on it, you begin to understand that there may just be a different angle to the whole episode. A woman's perspective. Medusa may have gone to her goddess Athena and asked her, please, dear goddess, this was horrible. This was the worst experience I ever had in my entire life. Can you please do something to help me so that men will never want to touch me again? So, although the goddess did what Medusa wanted her to do and made her hideous and made her so scary that men would not want to approach her, in the end they were still after her. Only this time they wanted to cut off her head, because then they could kill their enemies with it. What a life. What a beautiful life. Oh my God, the poor thing. She tried to live out peacefully the rest of her human existence, even as a disfigured, ugly, snake-haired woman, and yet they still came after her, one by one, turning to stone in her garden. Her goddess tried. She did. But that's the twist. That's the perception. If you look at all things in a different light, with a different viewpoint, you will see that there is validity behind it. There is substance to the concept. There is a way of hiding things in plain sight. So sometimes in life, it all comes down to perception, interpretation, wisdom via experience of life, teachings from the sages who came before you. Ta-ta for now. Bye-bye.